Okay, I think that will take us to Zachary Blair as our next participant in the listening session.
Zachary Blair has been promoted to panelist.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Great, thank you. I just want to take a minute to try to reduce some of the harm that's being done in this process, and by addressing the issues that we're talking about. I think we can all agree that there's consensus that the focus should be on the 49. I think we can all agree that there's consensus that first responders should not be included. And I think we can all agree that there's consensus that the building should be demolished after and only after there's a third-party investigation. And I think that's consensus. So I wanted to give some background. I'm a cultural anthropologist. I have a PhD in cultural anthropology. I've responded to over 24 mass shootings throughout the country. Me and my team are responsible for getting 8 million to the Uvalde victims and survivors. So I'm speaking, from this experience. There's this whole first responder conversation has come out of what happened after 9/11, where 300, I think it was, and 43 first responders were killed. Nancy might know the exact number, but there were hundreds of first responders who were killed in 9/11. At Pulse, there were 0 first responders who were killed. There were a handful who were brave and who did their jobs, but for the most part, there was a lot of cowardice, a ton of cowardice. They did not follow active shooter protocol for 45 minutes. There were 16 victims who could have survived had they gotten medical attention sooner. And, you can read about this in ProPublica. This is a well-reported facts. The fire department across the street even locked its doors to fleeing survivors. So we can't ignore these things. And when you focus on the 49, which is what I also agree, you don't have to deal with these false narratives. You can focus on the stories of the people who were killed. And so you don't have to bother yourself with all of these arguments that we're having at the table when you focus on the 49, and that's how it should be. And the families, as you know, that should lead the whole process. The other thing, I have my notes here. There's this also, when the conversation we talked about demolishing the building, there's this desire to want to memorialize the space. It's not the right word because you can't memorialize the space, but there's this idea that you want to remember the space as a safe space, but we have to come to terms with reality. Pulse was never a safe space. If it was a safe space, we wouldn't be here today. It was riddled with code violations. There's a lawsuit for security negligence. It was not a safe space. I know a lot of us. I went to Pulse since it first opened. I was 19 years old. I've been going for years until the shooting happened. I also thought it was a safe space, but processing that betrayal is for therapy. It's not for a memorial. We have to come to terms with reality. So as you move forward with this process, do not, I'm pleading with everyone in this committee, do not perpetuate false narratives, whether it's the response, the 3-hour-long response, the building being a quote unquote safe space, or whatever it might be, the politicians and those people involved, or the city's resilience. There's so many issues that are still ongoing, which is why there's so much trauma here. And we cannot use the memorial to perpetuate these false narratives. So, and I also wanted to agree, I don't think we should call it an event. I know Jasenia talked about this. I would even call it a tragedy. It's an atrocity. It's an atrocity. And we have to think of it as such. And this isn't, a memorial. We have a Memorial Day for those who were murdered. We have Veterans Day for the veterans who have survived. A memorial is for those who were killed. That's just the way it is. It's not a semantics game. It's not anything. You don't have a memorial service for someone who's still alive. And the last thing I would like to say too is, when you move forward with this process and mothers come and pour their heart out, do not pass notes around that discredit those mothers. And I'm talking about Lali Santiago. That is uncalled for and disgraceful. You have to let everyone speak. And I appreciate everyone who spoke today. I agree with Stephanie, I mean, everyone, Jay, so many great things that were said in this conversation today. And I'm actually glad that it happened, but I still have problems with this process. There's an, you know, and I could talk about it later, but I could just briefly mention it now. You know, there's a no one knows what to do after a mass shooting. So the process is usually to replicate what's been done in the past. And that's not always the best thing to do. It hardly is the right thing to do. And the families should be leading this. The survivors definitely have to be involved, but you know, there's a way to do it in a way that's respectful and that reduces harm. And that's not what's being done here. And I think, you know, Larry, you know, I've said this to you personally. I just don't think you're qualified to do this. But that's all I have to say.
Dr. Blair, thanks for joining. And I guess I'm just wanting to get some clarity on the way in which you think survivors should be incorporated into the memorial.
Yeah, I think I agree with what Tiara said. I think that conversation should come afterwards when the memorial is built for the 49. I think that, you know, and I always said that there should be a survivor's walk, like Stephanie had mentioned earlier. I think the survivor's walk was a great idea. And it's one that the city did and One Pulse did not move forward with. And so now you're bringing everyone to the table to argue. I think it's unfortunate. I think.
Sorry,
so
I'm sorry. I just want to make sure I'm understanding. Are you saying the memorial should be exclusively about the 49 and not incorporate the survivors?
I would like for you to not try to twist my words and make this an argument, or like I'm trying to pit people against people. I'm not doing that. I'm saying the memorial should be for the 49, and there should be a monument for survivors. I totally agree with that.
Are you saying a separate memorial?
I have no control over what the city does, but whatever can happen should happen.
Zach, I'm sorry. I'm really just trying to. I heard him reference the Survivors Walk, and from what I understand, that project is. I don't know anything about that project, whether it's moving forward or not. It was an initiative, I guess, of One Pulse Foundation. But Zach, I'm simply trying to clarify your position, and what I'm understanding you to say is that this memorial that this committee is working on should exclusively focus on the 49, and that some other facility, some other monument, some other place should be for the survivors. Do I have that correct?
I think that's an option, correct.
Okay. Is it the option that you prefer?
I would prefer whatever the 49 families prefer, and I think they should lead that conversation. I think, like Jeff had just mentioned, they mentioned someone who should definitely be recognized. 100% should be recognized, should have been recognized years ago. I think that, is that a memorial the place to do it? I don't think so. I think the memorial is for the 49 who were killed. Memorials are for those who were murdered.
All right. Committee members, is there anything you wanted to ask before we move on?
I just want to clear this with him. A memorial is not just to remember the dead. That's called a cemetery. So a memorial serves as a reminder of an event or to preserve remembrance, commemorate something that happened. So with your PhD, I would hope that you could navigate to Google and look this up so that we can continue to do what we're trying to do here, because a memorial can mean a million different things to everybody, but we're not getting anywhere spending 15-20 minutes on a phone call every single time that we're here to go over the same things over and over again. I think that this is a waste of our time. So if you put everything in an email, and we'll address it that way, because enough is enough.
Okay, well, the consensus is that the memorial should focus on the 49. That's what we've heard multiple times over. And if you Google and go to the National Park Service, that's the national government site, they will explain to you what the difference is between a monument and a memorial. And I suggest that you go look at it, with whatever credentials you have.
Thanks for the comment. And I appreciate what Brett's saying, that there could be different ways to interpret what a memorial is or should be. I think, yeah, 1 second, Tommy, committee member Santiago.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify with respect to the discourse that is happening right now. Again, Dr. Blair and everyone else involved. Um, there is transparency, and with respect to, I think words are being twisted around regarding what some of the committee members or who they are. And this doesn't go just directly to you, Dr. Blair. It goes to overarching. And I think that unfortunately, if the more we spend, as others have said, and not verbatim, what all this is doing for everyone is it's kind of re-traumatizing, and it's pitting people against each other and taking things out of context and words. And I just think that this is the point being, we're here to listen. And yes, it's a learning. As a family member of one of the victims, I too, I just wanted to counter that and just kind of open that up, because it's hard to hear this. It's emotional, and frankly, it's unkind. So I just would like us all at the table to try to start to get into this direction where we can all, and I know we all have our own ideas and whatnot, but to be called out without being asked, I think is just, I would have preferred, I don't know. This is a learning for me, but I think it's unacceptable. And I'm sorry.
Thanks.
That's all.
Yeah, that's the same word you used to describe Christine Leinonen when you wrote the note about her while she was talking. She is unacceptable.
It was unacceptable because it was unkind. We need to be kind to each other. And it was unkind. And she's not the only, that she was being unkind and calling out different people. Where I'm happy to have this conversation in person. But it wasn't just her, it was just, it was hurtful and it's traumatic.
So I think that, yeah, Lolly, I'm gonna just step in here for a second. I think that we all can agree that the focus in this conversation should be on the memorial and on the issues and not on people. Obviously, the people of the 49, I don't mean to suggest we should ignore them, but I think that any sort of comments that are directed about people are in contradiction to our discussion agreements. I want to turn to Aracelis, who has her hand up, our committee member, Aracelis Jimenez.
Here.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yes, I would just like to say a couple things. I think getting a budget is really central to moving forward, and everyone wants to move forward. I also want to move forward. You know, I don't get any pleasure out of having these conversations. I don't even really want to be here doing this either. This is a lot. It's been a lot for 8 years of fighting against One Pulse, of fighting against the city, of fighting against all this stuff. I want everyone to know that there's an OPD investigation that we have not gotten the report from yet. So we are waiting for that Orlando Police Department investigation to come out about the code violations at Pulse. Supposedly they're investigating it. We do not know what the results of that are, despite the conflicts of interest. You know, it's the city basically investigating itself. So that is why everyone is calling for a third-party inspection of the building before it is knocked down. I also want to remind everyone in this room, because it's like an elephant in the room, that there is a lawsuit that's ongoing that Christine, Keon, and so many other people, you know, the group is smaller, are still part of. It's still going forward. Their lawyer warned the city before they purchased that property that the ownership of the property was under question as part of that lawsuit. So, you know, I just like everyone to be based in living in reality. And that's something that's going on while this process goes on. And it's something that everyone should be aware of, so that if something occurs, it's not, you know, unexpected. And the other thing, Larry, is I don't appreciate you twisting my words. This is like the 5th time you've done it to cause division between the survivors and I. I've been working with my friends for the past 8 years. And so there's nothing that you're going to do to create division between us. I just want to put that out there. I always support the survivors. I think there should be a huge monument for the survivors. I think the survivors deserve more money that's been stolen from them. I think they deserve justice. I think they deserve a whole lot more than a survivor's walk. So anyone who knows me knows my intentions. And I would like to apologize to Lolly. I don't agree with what you did, but you know, I just hope that you have a conversation, not with me, but with Christine, because she deserves an apology. And that's it. Thank you.
Dr. Blair, thanks for speaking. I certainly did not intend to twist your or anybody's words, so thanks for letting us know.
Next up is going to be Christine Leinonen. If you can, please unmute your device. You will have 3 minutes to speak.
Christine, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm on here. Okay. All right, I don't see me, but I guess, can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
Okay, so I think it's morally reprehensible that I am not on that committee. And to give me only 3 minutes to talk. When I lost my only child at Pulse, the whole reason you're doing a memorial is to honor my son and the other 48. It's not to honor people in Virginia Beach or San Bernardino. It's to honor the people who were killed there at Pulse, which is my son. So what am I doing giving 3 minutes, having to watch a clock go down? I should have unlimited time to ask questions, to give my input, to talk to other committee members and to try to figure out how to best represent the people who were killed there. It's so unfair. It's morally unfair to do this to me as a mother and the other 3 mothers who applied. The fact that we had to apply and then get rejected on top of that, how just morally hard that is to do to us, and then to leave Araceli out there all by herself as the only mother, because you can't count the family members who stood side by side with a culpable bar owner who exploited the tragedy for 7 years, claiming to do a memorial for 7 years, not laying one single brick or doing one thing toward a memorial. Do you realize how far we would be ahead had we actually tried to get a memorial right from the beginning instead of just collecting money for our own selves so we could get celebrity and then not doing anything? Well, you've got 25% of the members you have on your committee stood side by side with Barbara Palma and the culpable fraudulent One Pulse Foundation. So how is this committee going to be fair? You've got Araceli standing all by herself with nobody to stand beside her. No other mother like me or the other 3 mothers that were rejected should be standing next to Araceli, showing the city that we want a legitimate memorial and we need to actually get it done. And all this talk about a museum, we started a community coalition against a Pulse museum and we were successful. That's off the table. Until you could get a proper memorial, why are you even talking about anything but a memorial? Stop wasting your time. We've got a 4-hour meeting and you're wasting your time talking about things that have nothing to do with a Pulse memorial, and that is your only job. So get members on your committee who can actually do the work and do it for the family members that lost their loved ones. And you talk about that they
Christine,
don't have
I'm gonna ask you to finish your thought.
But some people talked about that they don't have family members. I'm telling you that I met most of the 49 family members of the 49, and they had loving families. They didn't have people that they had to call their friends, their families, or
Ms.
their
Leinonen, thank you
long
very
lost
much
cousin, their
for,
family.
thank you
They
very much
have
for
loving
joining us.
families. I can guarantee you that when you get this memorial going, you could find at least one representative for each family that is willing to contribute to their what they believe they want for their loved
Thank you.
one.
Thank you
that
very
they
much,
lost
Ms.
at
Leinonen. We
home.
appreciate it.
But
I
see,
want
that's
to,
why I need to be on the committee. Because I have
we
more than
understand.
3 minutes worth
I
of
need to be,
thoughts.
I need to be fair to all of the folks who signed up to speak. So
Exactly,
I'm
but
gonna,
that's why I should have been
I'm
on
going
the
to be,
committee
I'm
right
going
from
to
the
be pausing
get-go.
your
You don't
time.
save me till the end. My son was killed there. Why did you save me till the very end after 8 o'clock? When everybody wants to go home, why wasn't I there right at 4 o'clock?
Thank you
allowed
very
to
much.
say things.
I'm going to respectfully ask that, that we end this commentary.
Right at 4 o'clock.
Thank you
allowed
very
to
much.
say things.
I'm going to respectfully ask that, that we end this commentary.